Hi, my name is Jessica Porter, and I wrote The Hip Chick's Guide to Macrobiotics. I want to tell you about that book, why I wrote it, what it's about. Well, first of all, why I wrote it is that I was getting into macrobiotics. I'd been into it for about 10 years. It was the most powerful, exciting thing I'd ever discovered. It was just so cool. And yet, some of the literature was like serious and even scary and intimidating. Not intimidating, scary, that's wrong, but just not as exciting and as dynamic as what I experienced macrobiotics to be. So I wrote a book that looks at the teachings of a teacher, a guy named George Osawa, and he wrote about the 12 laws of change. And it shows, most of us are familiar with the idea that like everything changes or change is the only constant. But really there's a pattern and an order to change. And nature works in a very orderly pattern. And as much as we recognize that in the seasons, we don't necessarily think about it taking place in our bodies or in our lives in an orderly fashion. And yet it does. So the book, The Hip Chick's Guide to Macrobiotics, is an introduction to these 12 laws of change. And it kind of introduces a new reader to what it's really all about. It's not just about brown rice or doing something perfectly or, seaweed. Those are elements all as factors within a philosophy. And the philosophy is what's cooler than anything. And the philosophy of these laws of change have never failed me. Ever since I've learned them, I see them everywhere. My life expresses them all the time. And with this lovely food, internally, I become very peaceful, and as much as I have a big personality, internally I'm very peaceful and happy, and it allows me to be more aligned with change. Because we're all going to change. That's happening all the time. But to be able to go through it gracefully and easily is pretty wonderful. So I would just say to like young women or women of any age out there, it's so important considering we're often the ones in the kitchen and we're often the ones who are the guardians of other people's changes. We help our children change, we help our partners change, we help our girlfriends change. And it's really interesting to actually study that energy and to strengthen the energy that we bring to the table and offer it in a more peaceful, sane, and consistent way.